Hey, so it's been about 45 minutes since I welded this in place or so. Had to do some family stuff, got some Amazon deliveries, which means our toe straps are in as well as the exhaust. I'll show you that later. For right now, I'm going to get working on these toe straps, and I'll kind of bring you along with my thoughts on how I'm going to place them.
So I'm going to attach them to this bumper. So this is your actual structural bumper on the car. I think what I'm going to do, at least for this initial one, is I'm probably going to place it somewhere in the vicinity of this mount so that if the vehicle does get pulled out, the force is going directly through this mount into the body of the car instead of like in the middle somewhere where it can pull. I'm not too worried about it, but I just think putting it probably on this passenger side.
I'll probably do the same with the front. The other reason I was thinking the passenger side is because at least Road America, you lap clockwise. And so if you go off the track, chances are it's going to be the passenger side that's towards the track. So it might make it easier. It's probably not going to make that much difference, but that's what I'm going with. So let's whip these things in. All right, the bumper is back on. As you guys saw, it's not secured in, but this is where it'll sit. As you can see, the toe strap sits nicely in the little slot I made. I also got the exhaust.
So here's the 2.5 inch mild steel exhaust pipe kit I got for $80-ish. And then these are the two mufflers I ordered. One's a resonator, one's a muffler. Which I spent more money than I had to on this setup.
And this is the reason why. Because we've all heard, I'm sure, how terrible Hondas can sound. Admittedly, a lot of that time it's because it's, you know, 2.5 inch or 3 inch exhaust with a muffler this size and then some like giant 4-inch tip or something. But that being said, Hondas can be pretty loud, and we have to be in this race car for, you know, hours at a time. And frankly, I don't want to be in a car that sounds like that. I hate that sound that certain Hondas make.
So I got us a muffler and a resonator. Now these are both straight through, So you can see it's just a perforated core. It's the same with the muffler. Perforated core.
So they're both straight through. However, I think between these two, it should tone it down enough to at least make it tolerable to be in. Because otherwise it's going to be 2.5 inch exhaust straight. Another thing, in case you're thinking, oh, I saw a Turbo Civic, it wasn't that loud or whatever. They are loud, but also turbochargers kind of act like a muffler. They say they act, you know, depending on the size of the turbo, about 1/3 of a muffler. So they do quiet down the exhaust. The other nice part is
this is the exhaust flange from the catalytic converter. So here's the catalytic converter I pulled off. And I just cut the flange off that was right there. And this opening right here is almost exactly 2.5 inches. Which is nice. That'll make welding to it easier, besides the fact it's kind of nasty. I'll spend a little more time trying to clean it up.
But I saw that. That's going to make this exhaust fairly simple, because all I got to do is bolt this flange up
and then start stacking the exhaust pipes. Like, basically the way it works is you put it on, you fit the pipe, you tack weld it in, make sure it's still where you're wanting it to go, then either tack weld it more or full you weld it, then kind of continue on.
Like I said though, the exhaust is pretty straightforward. It's almost straight back from where the cap mounts,
you know, under this part of the car behind the engine, and it's straight all the way back to about here where the factory resonator was, and then it does a little bit of a kink to go past this area, and then the muffler is mounted right here to the exhaust. The other thing I did was I cut out this little portion of the bumper. This is where the exhaust pipe is going to come out.
It's the next morning. I'm going to start working on the exhaust. I'm going to kind of show you through.
So underneath, this is the flange. Sorry, the lighting is terrible. This is the flange that I cut off of the catalytic converter. This is where the catalytic converter would sit. Basically, I'm just going to take a pipe and run it, you know, as far as it'll go till about right here. So there's should be 4-foot pipes. So we'll just try and locate it in this area. Then over here, I might kink it a little bit, run the resonator, run the resonator, run it out to the muffler, try and finish this thing off. Should be pretty straightforward. The biggest pain about doing exhaust like this is getting in and out from underneath the car. Honestly, just sucks. I wish I had a lift. It would make this so much easier and more comfortable to do. But let's get to it.
All right, yesterday while I was recording, at some point, the camera died and then I had some technical difficulties and it wouldn't charge. So I lost some of it. But that's why the footage might have skipped a little bit. But the exhaust is now complete, fully welded,
Ready to go in. So this is the tailpipe, main muffler. This is the resonator. That's where it should bolt up.
What do you say we put this thing in, fire it up, see how loud it is, what it sounds like. Hopefully it sounds good, or at least not bad. Not bad would be a plus, and not too loud. Before I get there, as you may have noticed, it is one giant piece from essentially where the cap bolted in all the way to the back. I figure the chances are we're not removing the exhaust all that much. So I think this will be fine. Like normally what I might do is put another connection point kind of around the rear axle area just to make it easier to service. Like if you got to pull out part of the exhaust, you don't have to pull out the whole thing. But we'll get this thing in, fire it up. All right, we've got all three hangers in. So they use all the Honda factory hanger locations. So this is the rearmost one. Then we got one right here. And then the third one right here. You can see we got a little bit of clearance, about a finger above here. Obviously this exit doesn't look the best, but
tailpipe's pretty centered.
In that, we can always clean that up if we need to later. Now, admittedly, this is going to be louder than it would normally be because we're inside of a garage, and especially the car facing to the wall, the sound's going to reflect off and come back, but we'll at least fire it up for a little bit. There's no coolant in it, and just see how it is. I'm going to try and talk while we're cranking, just so that the microphone doesn't auto adjust completely, because it's kind of tough to tell how loud something is until there's a reference. So let's see. Also, this thing does... Did the battery really die? Oh my gosh, the battery's dead. Alright, let's see. It still starts pretty hard. Loud, but not too terrible. Let's see. There's not really a gasket on that joint, at least not an obvious one. So before I gas myself out of here, see if we can feel it. I don't really feel any exhaust gas coming. We might be good. It's actually not super loud. There's pretty good exhaust velocity coming out of this. Not too bad, huh? I think that'll be tame. Okay, that's kind of loud.